Welcome to the show. Today we are talking to a co-founder of an alcohol-free drinks brand. What is alcohol-free drinks? Well, alcohol-free beer, alcohol-free wine, alcohol-free spirits, I guess, alcohol-free cocktails. In fact, today we're talking to the co-founder of Smug AF Cocktails. Her name is Jo Bowyer, and she is a fellow funny talker Australian like me from the Sunshine Coast, which is on the East Coast. Hey, how are you?
I'm doing well, James. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
And you just shared with me that you are 15 months alcohol-free. How did you get to 15 months alcohol-free? What was the decision to stop, and how's it been?
Well, it's been excellent. The decision wasn't an overnight decision, though. Before this company, I was actually a business coach, and I was committed to people finding out how to perform at their best. A sustained performance, and the thing that kept coming up was get rid of alcohol. And that was probably 7 years ago, and I couldn't imagine a life without alcohol. I was one of those people, I like to have a wine, and the idea that I would stop drinking it just didn't even enter my mind as something that was possible for me. But it just kept coming up, and it wasn't until I started meeting some people who had quit drinking that I thought, actually, maybe this is a viable option. I could give this a go. But then from that point, it's probably taken me 4.5, almost 5 years to come to this place where I could just stop and not want to drink. So I think it's an interesting message, isn't it? Because I think people see me stop drinking and think I just one day woke up and went, well, let's just stop drinking. But it took me many goes of long stints trying not to drink. I think the longest I ever made was 5 months. And I have to tell you, that was really hard because during that time, I still wanted a drink. My friends would be drinking and I really felt like I was missing out. I hadn't do any education, didn't read anything, I had no tools or methods for trying to get this thing out of my life. And I suppose it was really part of my identity. I was a bit of a party girl. I had one drink and Party Joe would be out, and then there was no limits, a bit like a Labrador with food. I just couldn't stop.
Yeah.
So there was no rock bottom. I just finally got to a point where I thought, I'm 40, I think I was 44 at the time, and hangovers were really starting to hurt, and I felt like I was going to die with my potential intact if I didn't stop drinking. That's really the point I came to.
So it took you some years, by the sounds of things, to come to that point, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. It took a long time. Alcohol was sort of part of my identity since I was a teenager, really. So it takes a bit of undoing, I think. It's like any bad habit.
I grew up in Brisbane. Where did you grow up?
I grew up in the western suburbs of Sydney.
Got it. And when I grew up in Brisbane, drinking 4X beer or Bundaberg rum and Coke at the Caxton Street Hotel in the mid-90s as a kind of young 20s, mid-20s kind of guy was just the norm. That's what you did.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking that people who didn't drink were dull and uninspiring, and almost like I was socially ostracizing them. And now I haven't drunk alcohol since 2010, literally haven't had a drop. In fact, I let wine touch my lips once when I was in a church in Los Angeles and Hollywood, but I didn't sip it, which is probably not very healthy. I probably shouldn't announce that online. Like they were trying to give me the communion, and I went to kind of thing, and that's this little side story. But yeah, now I look at it and I go, what was I thinking? My mindset around alcohol was so weak. For me, I'm not saying that, other people have that, but for me, it was like, what was I thinking? Because this is so much better. Would you agree? It's so much better.
I completely agree. And I think my 20s are a blur. I don't really remember anything. And I had a great life. I lived in Tokyo. I was working in Formula One. I mean, it was an incredible life. I traveled all around the world, and people say to me, where should I go in Japan? And I think, I can't remember. I don't know where you should go. I just lived so hard. Honestly, I feel like I aged 5 years when I went to Turkey. I have many regrets, but there are times when I think it was super fun as well. And I think that's where people get it all tangled up. Was it the alcohol making it fun, or was I just doing really fun things with fun people? And I think actually that's really what's happening. You can't magic fun out of no fun, just by drinking. So I think we need to sort of unfurl those connections to realise that yeah, maybe you thought that's how you had fun, but actually it's probably your great friends and the thing you were doing that really was bringing the fun.
Yeah, we do an exercise in one of our group coaching programs where I ask our clients to write down their top 10 most memorable moments in life.
Yeah.
Inspiring, euphoric, proud, whatever the top 10 life moments were. And I play some music in the background and I give them 5 minutes or so to write those things down. And then we take a look at the list. And what's really interesting is that about 7 or 8 of the things on the list don't involve alcohol. Like alcohol wasn't even present, or if it was present, it wasn't the reason why it made it onto the top 10 list. And it's a very eye-opening experience for folks because they go, oh, this is really interesting. The top 10 best moments of my life did not involve alcohol, or alcohol was present but wasn't necessary for it to make it onto the list. And when people see that, they start to have this shift, which is, oh, I don't need alcohol to have a good time. I don't need alcohol to celebrate. I don't need alcohol to go on an overseas trip. I don't need alcohol to create romance with my partner. I don't need alcohol to relieve the stress and anxiety at the end of the day. I don't need this thing after all. And yeah, it's just a beautiful, eye-opening experience for folks. Let me just put it on you. If I was to say to you, what are 2 or 3 of your most memorable moments in life or most enjoyable, what were they? Sorry to put you on the spot, but
what came to mind when you were talking was my wedding. So at my wedding, I didn't have time to have a drink really because I was busy being with the people and trying to remember to stop and just let it all sink in because I wanted to remember the wedding. And then interestingly, Matt and I went and had some time to ourselves and we came back to the after party and then I drank so much and I was so sick the next day and it was a real massive regret for me because the wedding itself, I really could have done with no alcohol whatsoever. It was a beautiful day. I really didn't need it. I've got 2 kids, so the birth of my children were obviously incredible and obviously you're not drinking while you're doing that. And anything to do with just spending time with my kids and really being there. My kids are a strong driving force for me not to drink because I notice how much I switch off around them. And then, you have a few drinks and suddenly your focus narrows to where's the next drink and you forget that you're with your most loved humans in the world. So, yeah, I've definitely managed to unhook all of those events and, the key joys in life from alcohol, which has been an important piece of work. It does take work, right? Like I'm glad that you're there helping people unhook all of that stuff because it's easy to just kind of bind it all together, doesn't it?
Yeah. So you went alcohol-free 15 months ago. What was your start date?
December 30, 2020. Can you believe I started before New Year's Eve? People are like, why wouldn't you just wait till January 1? I'm like, well,
were you trying to get a head start? Was that like the peak performer in you? What was the reason?
I don't know. I think I just finally got to the point where I'm done with this. I'm really done. And it didn't matter what date it was or what event was in front of me. We had a big party the next day. And I can tell you this, can I tell you a little story about how we ended up with Smug as our brand name? We went to a party. It was actually a friend's birthday. It was New Year's Eve and I drove and we danced and all the things. Like it didn't matter that I wasn't drinking. Nobody cared, right? And then I was driving the family home and my husband had gotten caught up in having shots with the boys and everybody was was ridiculous what got drunk. We got home at 10:30 at night and my poor husband was throwing up in the garden, right? And I have to tell you, that was my very first reinforcing moment. I felt so smug. I just was like, I'm so happy I didn't drink. And I think this is something, it was a good reinforcing moment to have so early because it's easy to feel like you missed out on something, but actually nobody ever regrets not drinking the following day. You never regret that, ever. I don't care what happened the night before. You will always wake up going, man, I'm so glad I didn't drink last night.
It's so true, isn't it? It's so true. You wake up on a Saturday or a Sunday morning.
Yeah.
And you get out of bed and the whole weekend's ahead of you and you feel the way that nature intended you to feel, which is clear, and then and then you start to see people who maybe were at a similar event who were drinking
Yeah.
And you start to look at them and they get up sheepishly, you know, maybe an hour or two later, maybe the same time, but they're moving pretty slowly, whereas you're moving at a normal pace.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I love those feelings. I love the feeling of Saturday morning waking up, and I'll go to F45, which is, you know, a group exercise class, and the feeling that I get about 20 to 30 minutes after I finish morning exercise, after I shower, put on clean clothes, and it's still only about 8:30 in the morning or 9 o'clock on a Saturday, I'm like, oh, how good is life? The whole weekend's ahead of me and I feel great.
I also don't need any, like, you know how people get tired in the afternoon? I don't get any of that anymore. I have energy all day long. And that was one of the things I started to really connect with alcohol, was this lack of energy, this general feeling of lethargy. So I'm so grateful to have energy all day long.
Yeah, amazing.
Stops me eating chocolate or anything else at 3 p.m., you know.
Yeah.
3 p.m. slump. So
tell me a little bit about Smug AF and how you came up with it and what kind of drinks you produce and what's the mission behind it.
Yeah, I suppose my business partner and co-founder, Lauren, her dad also had been through, he got really sick about 6 months before we started and couldn't have any alcohol. It was something to do with his pancreas. And so Lauren just stopped cold turkey as well. She's like, wow, this is, obviously, I think when you're confronted with something that is alcohol-induced or lifestyle-induced and then someone can't drink at all, it does have you questioning what you're doing. So she had stopped drinking. She hadn't drank for 5 months or something as well. And when I rang her, we were already doing another business together, and I rang her and said, I think I want to do something to help people stop drinking, because what I noticed was the stigma associated with not drinking. I'm not sure what it's like in the States, but certainly here in Australia, and I know it's similar in the UK, but I found before I was truly committed to not drinking, people were always trying to bend my arm. Oh, can't you just have one? Surely it's my birthday. How can you not drink at my birthday? But it's a wedding, or you're going camping. It's always an excuse. Like everybody else was trying to, sway me from my path. And I'd heard many stories back from others. I joined a few of these sober, curious kind of groups, and I was listening to what people were saying about it. I thought, man, I need to get involved in this. It's got to be easier way to create a more inclusive culture. So that really formed part of our mission, was how could we help propel a change, and it was already happening, but how could we be part of that movement, that creating a more inclusive socializing structure where drinking doesn't need to be part of it. And if somebody's not drinking, they don't have to justify it with some approved reason, like I'm pregnant, or I'm driving, or I'm training for a marathon, or I've got an early start tomorrow, all the accepted reasons. And then just I don't want to drink was not okay. So that really formed part of our mission. And we were going to do trinkets and shirts or something else that just kind of signaled to people, I'm not drinking, I'm not doing it. Don't ask me, something to signal. And then we just somehow, Lauren rang me, she said, no, we need a beverage. We need a beverage to make this, to do it well. And one of the things that we noted from all the feedback was that people really felt often like they were missing out by not drinking, because you go to a venue and maybe there's a Coke or water, or you can have, soda water with lime in it, or, the adult sophistication in drinks just disappeared overnight when you stop drinking. And there's a lot of brands now, a lot of people doing different things, which is awesome. But even a year ago, there wasn't that many when we started. So we decided we wanted to make a cocktail that still had that exact cocktail experience. The drink would replicate the sense that you were drinking a real cocktail, but obviously without the alcohol. And we did our best to reduce the sugar as much as we could, because a lot of people are doing it for health reasons. So you don't want to be loading up this drink with sugar, and turning it into a dessert. So what we created in the end was a range of non-alcoholic cocktails, and we started with a margarita. We now have a mojito, and we've got 3 other flavors ready to launch. So the recipes are all done. It's been a bit of a journey to get to this point, but we do get a lot of feedback that our drinks really do replicate the real thing. I think for people still drinking, they can definitely tell the difference. But for anyone who's stopped for a period of time, they really love it.
Got it. Yeah. And so does it look like, if you're drinking out of it comes in cans, yes? Yeah,
this is our, I can't show you because I've got the blue thing on. Yeah, it comes in a can. because we wanted people to be able to take it to a barbecue. It's already made. It's already got the non-alcoholic spirit in it.
Yeah. And does it look like someone's drinking an alcoholic drink when they drink out of that can? Like, to the casual observer, would they be like, "Oh, that person's drinking a vodka drink"?
We think we got the branding fun enough and cool enough that I wouldn't have anyone asking any questions aside from, "Oh, that looks cool. What are you drinking?" We didn't want it to look too earnest. I think a lot of the brands in the marketplace are very earnest. It's all very serious, this not drinking thing. And we weren't wanting to be anti-alcohol. We wanted to be an option for people who were just like, "Oh, help me cut down. If I can start the night with an alcohol-free cocktail, or I can switch over and nobody notices, that would be ideal." So if you pour our margarita into a glass, it looks like a real margarita. It doesn't look like a soft. It's got a head on it. It looks amazing because we dose it with nitrogen. So you shake it up and pour it into the glass, and nobody would be any the wiser. Yeah.
And is it important to people, you think, or is it important to some of your customers so far that they create the illusion that they are drinking alcohol, or that they're not inviting attention?
Yeah, I think there's a group of customers who are like me, who are like, "I don't drink anymore," and nobody messes with them, right? But me 4 years ago, I was really trying to fly under the radar because I had a bit of a rubber arm. I wasn't that committed yet. I knew I wanted to stop, but I didn't really know how. And so I think for anyone who is just trying to work it out for themselves, many people like to fly under the radar and not announce to the world that they're not drinking. So, yeah, I think there's both camps.
Yeah. When you've got customer feedback, what's some of the feedback that they give you? Like, what are some of the things that they like? Not necessarily about the taste per se, but or the actual product, but what do they like about the idea of drinking an alcohol-free drink in general amongst friends or amongst their social group?
The main thing we hear, and it's not just about our drink, it's about all the drinks, because we get feedback from lots of places. People feel included. They just they don't want to stand out with a glass of water in their hand. It really stands out when you're at a function. People are drinking. It's so obvious when you're just holding water, right? And so if you can be holding something that just blends in with everybody else, then I think that people enjoy that idea that, one, I'm participating fully to the extent that I can. Nobody's really making me stand out. I'm not drawing attention to myself. And, I can leave when people start to get messy. I can drive home.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's that inclusion factor, the idea that you belong. People want to belong, right? It's a fundamental human need, is that we want to belong. We don't want to stick out. So it's really what we were trying to help people with.
Yeah, yeah. Is it time to give your liver a break? Have you been punishing your liver for many years with seemingly innocent alcohol use? If so, I invite you to show your liver some love by enjoying natural supplements from my supplements company, Swan Vitality. The Swan Vitality Liver Cleanse contains my own concentrated formula of powerful natural antioxidants scientifically designed to cleanse the liver and support blood circulation. Just take 3 capsules every day with your evening meal with a half glass of water, and you will love the results you will see and feel. Swan Vitality is 100% natural, safe, and effective. To get started on your Swan Vitality journey, I'm inviting you to enjoy 15% off your first order. Just go to swanvitality.com and use the code James at checkout. That's swanvitality.com. Use the code James at checkout to trigger your 15% off. Are you noticing a shift in Australian culture around alcohol, or around around embracing alcohol-free drinks, or rejecting alcohol in general, or is it still pretty much the same as it always was? What are you noticing?
Yeah, because I spend so much of my time in this alcohol-free space, it's really easy to think that it's changing really fast. But it really isn't. I was on a call with a guy I haven't seen for a while. It was one of the landmark courses, actually, we were doing. And I somehow it came up that I wasn't drinking. And he goes, "But you're not an alcoholic, are you? I didn't think you had a problem with drinking. What? Why? Why would you stop drinking? Why do you need to stop?" And that kind of incident reminded me that, yeah, we've still got some work to do. Here in Australia, Dan Murphy's just announced in Melbourne that they're opening an alcohol-free bar and expanding their range even more. So, and there's been a mixed reaction to that in the alcohol-free community. They're like, this is just big alcohol jumping on the bandwagon and they're not serious about it. But Lauren and my view is that if the big guys don't get involved, we cannot make lasting change. We kind of need everybody to be on the bus, making it, removing the stigma and normalizing this idea that you would take a break or you would quit for good. So I'm sure they're doing it because it's a good money spinner, but I'm also glad to see it because it makes it more normal.
Yeah,
but I still think it's a bit of a journey to go, James. I'm not sure we are nailing it. I've seen some research showing that younger people are rejecting alcohol more, sort of that 18 to 24-year-old age bracket, drinking much less. I think they don't want to be seen to be losing control. Social media is brutal, right? And I have to say, I'm really glad I didn't grow up in the age of social media because with all the dumb stuff I did growing up, I'm really glad it wasn't captured on film somewhere.
Yeah, I feel you on that one. I actually have started flirting with TikTok recently, and I put on about a month ago, I started a TikTok account, and I've put up about, 3, 6, 9, 12, it's about 20 videos, and one of them popped. I've got 882,000 views on one of them at the moment, and the video is alcohol is shit. And I'm literally holding a whiteboard. You can probably see there.
I saw it. Yeah, you posted on Instagram as well, right?
Yeah, on Instagram as well. But what's really interesting is the comments, because I've got, so far I have 4,931 comments. So let's call it 5,000 comments on that particular video. And I would say that 80% of them are people chastising me for saying that alcohol is shit. And saying things like lighten up, and you've got to enjoy life, and some really funny things there as well. I have to say, from a couple of guys have said, "Yeah, but that's how I got my missus," and then someone else said, "Yeah, I produced 2 kids from alcohol," and I'm like laughing, kind of, oh, yeah. But that TikTok video and seeing that 4,000 out of 5,000 comments are kind of negative or trying to defend alcohol shows me that we still got a long way to go as well.
Still a long way to go. And so we've tried to take the stance about, we sort of go easy. We don't demonize alcohol because we want people to hear what we've got to say. So when we found if you take that very hardline approach, it turns off more people than it opens up. So you're only going to capture the people, generally, you only really get the people listening to you who have already made that decision or they've been affected by alcohol in some way in their life before, right? So the things like the movement of grey area drinking and this idea that there's a spectrum, it's not just you're a normal drinker or you're suddenly an alcoholic and you're in the gutter and you've lost your entire family, you're drinking out of brown paper bags at 10 a.m., which is what I think people have related to alcohol before. It's either you're doing okay and you're normal or you are, your life's over. And this idea that there's this whole grey area in the middle, what we found is that helps people open up to the conversation and not shut down. We've had comments before on things that have blown up, and we talked about grey area drinking. People were like, those people are just an alcoholic, and it so shuts down the whole conversation, these labels. So I think because our mission is to try to educate people and to open up the space, we've stayed away from demonizing alcohol and just tried to help people to see, oh, actually, maybe I'm drinking a bit too much, and maybe there is something else available to me if I reconsider how this is playing out in my life.
Yeah.
But it takes a bit of work. It takes a bit of work to get that message out there, and there's certainly a big job to do. I mean, the glamorization of alcohol is just unbelievable. If only the ad companies would video people the day after or at 3 a.m. instead of on their way out having their drinks, when they look all glamorous and beautiful and they're picking up the girl at the bar and, attracting attention. If you get the before and afters, I think people would realise how much actually it did have an effect.
Yeah. It's funny too, because I see the generational entrenchment. I think that's a word. Entrenchment, is that word? Is that a word? I think it is.
Yeah, I think so. I'll accept it.
Thank you. In terms of drinking culture, my mother's husband is about, I think he might almost be 80. I think he's 79. And I've been, helping people to stop drinking since 2015. So he's very aware that I'm in that space. And he never says anything that other than supportive things to me. However, he always makes little sly jokes around alcohol and loving alcohol and, just have a couple beers, ha, ha, ha. And he always inserts humor into his consumption of beer and his friends' consumption of beer and et cetera. And I just see that as being such a generational thing where it's like people are boasting, there's a smirk on the face. It's kind of like, I had a few beers last night. It's enough to drive a man to a beer. I'm going to have a beer now. Like very Aussie blokey comedy fun where there's no indication at all that anyone would ever think that alcohol wasn't fun or a social lubricant.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting to see him at almost 80 years of age that, he's got 70, let's call it 65 years of conditioning in him.
Yeah.
Assuming that he, started to maybe entertain the idea of drinking at age 15. He's got 65 years, 7 decades of believing that alcohol is something that you do with your friends and your mates to create a bond and a connection. So I see that and I'm like, whoa, this is going to be challenging to move society for generations, right?
Absolutely. I mean, and no one ever talks about the fact that alcohol is what is it? What do they call that? Category 1 carcinogen. So up there with nicotine, with asbestos. I mean, nobody's talking about that. And I just read a comment in one of the groups I'm in, and a lady had said, I've had all these issues with my health and all kinds of things, like very serious issues. She goes, I gave up drinking for 7 weeks. I'm 62 now. I've been drinking my whole life, but I didn't notice any benefits. So I think I'm just going to go back to drinking. and you can't undo 50 years of drinking in 7 weeks. I mean, if you've conditioned your body and you've created the health issues you've created over a long period of time, I mean, you need to give your body a long period of time to recover, Yes, there's a lot of damage happening that we don't even realize just on a cellular level with our bodies.
Yeah.
Aside from whether my life's boring or fun or whatever else. I mean, we've certainly got our values a bit screwed around, haven't we, in terms of our health?
Yeah, it's a level 1 carcinogen. I just Googled it when you shared that, Joe. It says alcohol has been classified as a group 1 carcinogen for decades by the International Agency for Research on Cancer. It's right up there with tobacco and asbestos. Yep. Alcohol is also a top cause of preventable cancer after smoking and obesity. And then the International Agency for Research on Cancer lists the group 1 carcinogenics to humans, and it includes acid mists, aflatoxins, aluminium production, a whole lot of other things, and alcohol.
Yeah.
So there you go. That doesn't sound too pleasant, but yet we put it in a attractively packaged bottle, and we put some pretty heavy marketing behind it, and
plenty of sugar and other things that make it palatable. Because if you drank alcohol, I mean, everyone knows if you have a shot of alcohol, it tastes bad. Everyone looks ugly with a shot going down their throat, like,
Yeah.
So, I mean, what are we doing? We've disguised this poison. The body's basic function of dealing with a poison is to recognize it by it tastes bad. Even if you read something like Sapiens and the way the human body the way we've evolved as humans, anything that tastes bad is a poison. And if something tastes good, it's probably safe for consumption.
Yeah.
And here we are, pretending that alcohol is okay.
Yeah.
But
one of the things I find challenging is The Rock, the Dwayne Johnson, the actor, the Hollywood actor, big guy. He does amazing things in the world. He really does. I mean, I've interviewed him a couple times. I used to be a film journalist. I lived in Hollywood, and so I interviewed him at a film junket, or a couple film junkets. He's a very nice man and wildly successful at what he does. Like former wrestler, Hollywood action movie star, producer, businessman, philanthropist, does great things for charity. He's got 305 million Instagram followers. I'm looking at his thing right now. But one of the things that kind of gnaws at me is that he, like many other celebrities, have brought out their own alcoholic drink. So he does tequila. And I'm not sure what the name of his brand is. I'm just having a look at this. But I just wish that, or my hope or my wish is that these celebrities, like The Rock, at some point recognize how bad alcohol is, even at just moderate levels, and somebody comes out with an alcohol-free drink or speaks out against it. Because here's the thing, I'm looking at The Rock's page now, and he's a wonderful man. I believe that because I've engaged with him in person, and that's my impression of him. But I just get so disheartened that he's promoting this tequila brand, which does so much damage to so many people. And I suspect that in 20, 30, 40 years, we'll look back on these kind of promotions and go, wow, that's crazy that all these celebrities were promoting alcohol. Yeah. Because now we look back at old cigarette ads and we're like, what the heck was society thinking? You got any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I question whether he actually drinks his own drink, because he's a fit guy and I can't imagine him partaking of much alcohol, to be honest with you. But I 100% agree with you. The thing I think that's difficult is the education it's freely available, but only if you go looking for it. And we're so, what is the word? We're so brainwashed that alcohol is good. It does so much for your social life and you feel good and it's good for relaxing. If I'm celebrating something, let's drink. It's a wake, we're at a funeral, let's drink. I got through university, let's drink. It's Friday, let's have a drink. I had a hell of a week, let's have a drink. It's in the movies. The thing that I watch now, and it becomes really obvious once you stop drinking, is how prevalent alcohol is. And I was watching the latest Bond film, and, he's having a drink lots of times during the show. It's part of who Bond is, right? And it doesn't matter what movie you're watching. There's plenty of alcohol involved, even kids' movies, So I get it. And, I don't know what the tipping point will be in terms of, we just need more people to speak out. And unfortunately, the celebrities you hear from who really don't drink have often hit some kind of rock bottom and they've had to fight their way back. And so it reinforces this idea that, well, it's all good except for those few people who really can't handle their liquor.
Yeah, that's right.
And we try to promote whatever celebrities there are that don't drink, and usually their story is like that. They've had to overcome something very difficult, and it makes people think, well, they had some kind of weakness. There was something wrong with them.
Yeah.
But they don't realise, and Alan Carr talks about it, and even Alcohol Explained, William Porter's book, that alcoholism is really just a spectrum. You might seem like a normal drinker today, but that could easily you could become an alcoholic, and it might happen to you in 6 months. It could be 20 years. It might be 3 years, whatever, but you are on a spectrum, and there's no getting around it because it is a toxin. It's just the way it behaves in the body. It's addictive. You might be okay today, but if you keep going, you really don't know where you're going to end up.
Yeah, well said. I want to give you guys a plug, and if you're listening, please do follow Smug AF online. I'm actually looking at your TikTok account here. Your business partner does a lot of funny videos here.
He is hilarious.
Yeah. It's great Lauren. That you guys are inserting comedy and humor and fun things into this, which is amazing because otherwise it's kind of dull and boring and people will go, oh, alcohol-free drink, that sucks. Whereas you guys are bringing fun and lightheartedness and playfulness to it. It creates a better emotion, doesn't it? So if you're listening and you're on TikTok, then the handle is at Smug AF Cocktails. So Smug AF Cocktails. There's a video there that's got 1.2 million views, which is really nice and funny. And what's your Instagram and website and things like that?
Yeah, so it's Smug. Instagram is at Smug_AF_cocktails. We're pretty well searchable in Google, though. If you put Smug AF Cocktails in there, we're coming up all over the place. We're on LinkedIn. We've just built a YouTube channel because we've created a lot of content, done a lot of interviews with just normal people who've either stopped for a while, maybe they stop every year, they take a few months off every year, or they've quit completely. And we've just tried to extract their stories from them. So we'll be slowly taking that off Instagram and putting it onto YouTube. We have an email that we send out every week, Smug Tips, which is just our little tip. It's like a 40-second tip for the week on, something you can do to help yourself become more mindful when it comes to alcohol, basically.
Yeah, beautiful. Well, Jo, thank you so much for sharing your time, and congratulations on the product. I know it's challenging, or it can be challenging, to start a business from scratch, which is what you've done. It's probably been challenging at times and still is, right?
Oh, it is so challenging. And neither of us had any experience in beverage. So, yeah, we've been through a few formulators, producers. It's an interesting time, but we think we're pretty happy with what we've come up with, and we're very excited about what's coming. So,
yeah, amazing.
Hopefully we'll be in the US soon. We're starting. We've had a lot of interest from the US. So we're just trying to look into how could we do something to satisfy the itch that's happening over there. So,
yeah. Great. Well, congratulations on what you've done so far, and thank you for being such a supporter of the alcohol-free lifestyle community, and looking forward to seeing how this continues to grow, Jo.
Yeah, me too. Thanks for your time, and thank you for the work you're doing as well.
Welcome. Thank you. Here are 5 ways I can support you on your health journey. Number 1, the Better AF group support. You can go to alcoholfreelifestyle.com/betteraf. That is group virtual coaching to help you to stop drinking. The YouTube channel at alcoholfreelifestyle.com/YouTube. The book, Alcohol Freedom Formula, can be found at alcoholfreelifestyle.com/guide. My liver cleanse from my supplements company, Swan Vitality, at swanvitality.com. And protect your eyes from screens by wearing a pair of Swannies blue light blocking glasses from my sleep company, Swanic Sleep. You can find that at swannies.com. Catch you on the next one.